common discussion you might have seen taking place if you exist in Doctor Who fandom spaces is this idea that Doctor Who is somewhat moving backwards, with the appointment of the likes of Russell T Davies as well as David Tennant and Catherine Tate coming back for the 60th anniversary, as well as many of the other producers coming back from his era as well. There's been a somewhat negative feeling from some people that Doctor Who is moving backwards and is therefore abandoning the change that keeps Doctor Who moving, and that it will lessen opportunity for new talent to come on board. However, what I'm going to argue today is that actually, in order for Doctor Who to survive and thrive, going backwards might be the solution to its continued survival. Also, if you enjoy these videos, feel free to subscribe. I'd very much appreciate that. We're trying to get to 20,000 subscribers. Any support would be appreciated. I also have a Ko-fi, which you can donate to if you'd like to support me and the channel. But with that said, let's get into the video. So it's no secret that Doctor Who has been somewhat struggling to maintain itself the last few years. Chris Chibnall recently said that for a while he thought that Power of the Doctor was going to be the final episode, and that due to COVID-19 he wasn't sure whether he was going to be able to continue Doctor Who Flux. Therefore, the show could have ended even earlier in Series 12, and so that I'm not accused of Chibnall bias, Moffat was also quoted as saying that he struggled to find someone as well, and basically had to get Chris Chibnall drunk to take on the job. So there's been this kind of sense that nobody wants to take on the Doctor Who showrunner position. Nobody wants to take on this role because it is so demanding. The fan base is so, I guess, fractured and turbulent that it's just a very difficult role to take on. So therefore, Russell T Davies coming back makes sense, in that he's done it before, he knows how to run the show and make it a success. But what I want to argue is that actually, what Russell T Davies has been doing could actually lay the foundation for a more sustainable model for Doctor Who's continual growth and success. With things like the Disney Plus deal, as well as Bad Wolf now being the home of Doctor Who production, at least for the foreseeable future, whereas Chibnall also said that he was only told prior to production that it was going to be produced by BBC Studios rather than, I believe, BBC Wales. Having a permanent home for Doctor Who production in Bad Wolf allows for a lot more security in Doctor Who production. Additionally, Disney Plus funding will allow for more experimentation, more expansion when it comes to things like spin-offs, which will then in turn allow for new talent to come on board, as well as a higher international profile, making it so that Doctor Who is, for lack of a better term, harder to cancel. So yes, Doctor Who is going backwards. However, I would argue that the foundations that Russell T Davies is laying is doing the exact opposite to that. It's laying the foundations for the show moving forwards. I'd also make the case that writers, producers coming back isn't a new thing and has also led to some highly acclaimed stories. For example, Terrance Dicks in the classic era wrote for the Five Doctors, and Robert Holmes wrote fan-favourite stories like Caves of Androzani, long after their eras and tenures on the show have ended. So I don't necessarily agree with the notion that former showrunners or writers or producers coming back automatically means that we're not going to be getting new things in terms of the content level. It's also worth pointing out that for as much as people talk about Doctor Who's tendency for change, I think it's also worth noting that Doctor Who has an equally long history of going back and revisiting the past, particularly during anniversary years, which is what we are in now. Obviously, Russell T Davies will continue beyond the anniversary years, but I don't necessarily see Russell T Davies' reappointment as some sort of break from the long-standing traditions of Doctor Who, rather a continuation that everything old becomes new again, and after that, Doctor Who will inevitably and eventually move on. I think I'd also be a lot more concerned about this if we didn't already have confirmation of various pieces of new talent coming on board, whether it be Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson themselves, directors like Chenya Button and Tom Kingsley, producers like Scott Hancock and Vicky Delau. These are new faces to Doctor Who. I don't think the old team being involved is necessarily a bad thing if they collaborate with new talent. I think actually that would lead to potentially the best of both worlds. a sense of security for the likes of the BBC and a consistent quality, but also injecting new voices and styles into it. I know for some of you, you're just going to be saying, I don't care, as long as the episodes are good. And that's fair enough. But a lot of fans do have concerns about the show's continued longevity, which I understand, and its continued desire to change and grow and adapt. However, I personally believe that while, yes, there are some familiar faces coming back, I think actually this will put Doctor Who in a lot safer of a position than it has been before. Let's say, hypothetically, a new showrunner was brought on board following Chris Chibnall, a relative unknown, maybe got a few writing credits under his belt, a few showrunning credits, but someone who isn't too, I guess, well known within the TV industry, like a relative newcomer. There's every chance that that era could have been successful, even popular, but there's also every chance that that era would have been unsuccessful. And then where does that leave Doctor Who going forwards? Obviously, we don't know 100% whether the Russell T Davies era will be successful, but it seems like they're making all the right decisions to make it the case. Are they the most creative decisions? Perhaps not. Are they the most daring decisions? Perhaps not. But sometimes safer decisions are what is required. I personally would much rather Russell T Davies and the crew come back to maintain Doctor Who than I would Doctor Who just cease production, which seemed to be the way it was going in the last few years, even by recent showrunners' admission. So I'm not basing this on my own subjective opinion when it comes to either eras, when it comes to Moffat or Chibnall, because both have expressed the difficulties of continually producing Doctor Who. Giving Doctor Who those experienced pairs of hands, as well as a more stable hub for its creation, to me, is allowing for Doctor Who's future, rather than cutting it short by taking a risk. Essentially, Russell T Davies is laying down the foundation for Doctor Who's future success with Bad Wolf, with Disney+, with the old team like Phil Collinson and Julie Gardner and Jane Tranter. That foundation, much like the foundation of a house, will allow for further building on top of it and further creativity in the future, if you'll pardon the building analogy, I guess. But let me know what you think about this. I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on this. Do you not care at all, as long as it's written well? Do you think that they should have gone for someone new for the new era? Do you think that more new talent should have been brought in? Or do you think, like me, bringing in some more established talent actually probably aids in Doctor Who's continued existence? Whatever your thoughts are, drop them down in the comments below. I would genuinely be really interested in hearing them. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later.